Good evening, YouTube. It is Hannah from Smaugish, and this video is, well, if I had viewers, it would cause controversy. I am going to be doing a sort of fourth part of my Goth 101 series. If you remember, before Christmas I uploaded a series of 3 videos all about how to get Goth wardrobe and makeup and accessories and things on a budget, and it's like a Goth 101 introduction to Goth for those that are starting into it. And I've always planned to do this part of the video, which is a video about more, because there's more to Goth than just how you look, so that's what this video is about. But it's one of those subjects that always causes drama, and I don't know, I was a bit scared because I was like, oh, because someone will always have something to say, someone will always disagree, and they'll say, oh, this is Goth, oh, that's not Goth, oh, what are you talking about? But I've been a Goth for a while, so I figured I would just make this is my take on it, this is my advice to you if you are a baby bat or a gothling, or you're just starting to get into it, or you want to know more. That's why I'm doing this video. So if that sounds like something you'd be interested in, please do carry on watching. And I would just remind people that know Goth and are Goth to their core, bleed black, everything like that. This is my opinion, this is just my advice. Yeah, so as I said, sounds like something you're interested in, please keep watching. Remember to like and subscribe to my channel, and I hope you enjoy. There's more to Goth than the way you look. I'm someone really, I've been interested in gothy things since I was probably about 4 years old. If you'd have asked me when I was 4 what I wanted out of life, I would probably have said to drive a hearse, have a pet snake, and live in the labyrinth with Jareth. So I've always been, you know, gothy, and a bit weird and a bit dark, and I would say I was a goth, or starting to move towards being a goth, since about the age of 12, 13. And I've definitely been a goth, fully fledged goth, even if it was on and off when I, you know, played with colour and things like that, for about at least 10 years, if not more. So this is my advice to you if you are thinking about, you know, becoming a part of the goth scene, or you're interested in it, you want to know more. This is what I would say, because obviously I did videos on how to look the part. You need to be able to walk the walk as well, because there is so much more to goth than just the way you look and dressing goth. You could dress in a goth style without necessarily being a goth. So that's basically what this video is about. And controversially, these days, modern goth, there is more to goth than the music. The music is a big important part of it, and oh my god, if you know anything about what I would call goth tube, it has been an absolute war zone regarding the music issue recently. So I'm going to touch upon that. I'm going to touch upon some books, because books and gothic literature and everything is my jam, and then just some other various things you need to know. So let's do a little bit of a history lesson. Gothic History 101. So, Goths, the term Goth, can originate from the Visigoths, which were a tribe of Germanic tribe in the Dark Middle Ages, and they sort of came across Europe and invaded and conquered and were a bit of a thorn in the side of the Roman Empire. But Goth as we know it is kind of like, it's an interesting term, because originally Visigoth, they were called Gothics and the Goths because they were a bit barbarian, and that's just the way that they were, you know, the name that the tribe had. What we kind of know as Gothic is more sort of late medieval architectural style. That's where we sort of get the term Gothic from. One of the best examples that comes straight to my mind is the York Minster, which is obviously in Yorkshire, in the city of York, in the United Kingdom, in England. And it's just that, you know, when you think of things like Notre Dame Cathedral in Paris, you know, that Gothic style with the high archways and the flying buttresses and the stained glass windows and all those kind of things, gargoyles, statues of the saints. That Gothic architectural style is really where, you know, modern ideas of Gothic, that's where it started coming in. And you also have the literature and the poetry came out at the end of the Romantic period, and the Gothic writers were interested in, you know, secrets and mysteries and lots of shocking death and a bit of sexual deviancy, and the macabre and the darker sides of humanity and things like that. So as you can probably see, a lot of how we view and a lot of the things that make up the Gothic subculture these days stems a lot from that. Certainly the medieval Gothic architecture, as a lot of the aesthetic of Goth comes from that, and then a lot of the things that Goths like and I guess their life views comes from the views, I would say, of the Romantic and Gothic literature, late Romantic certainly. I'm gonna hit my glasses off now. So whereas a lot of people say Goth started in the 1970s as a post-punk movement, that's kind of true. At the same time, I think a lot of our Gothic sensibilities stem from the late Romantic Victorian periods. Anyway, that whole thing, Goth started as a musical genre, as a movement. Okay, we can't deny it. The first sort of Goths, you'd look at them to recognise them as Goths, definitely came out, and the music scene came out as a sort of an offshoot of punk in the 1970s. And so a lot of the early goth bands, or bands that goths listen to, because a lot of people these days are like, oh, they're not a gothic band, they're just, you know, bands that goths listen to. They're very, very punky. So I have a bunch of CDs that I am going to make recommendations if you're just starting to get into the gothic style. Music is so important. There are, I think It's Black Friday did an incredible video, as did Angela Benedict. They are both two YouTubers that I would really recommend to watch. They both did really good videos about introductions to goth and sort of some goth artists and things and bands you could listen to. They talk about things like everything from death rock like 45 Grave, to bands like Alien Sex Fiend, and modern bands like the Crüxshadows and Merciful Nuns and things like that. So that's a really, really, really good, Rosetta Stone is another really good one. Those are two good YouTubers to sort of have a search for and watch their videos on it. These bands here, these are like not my list of goth bands. These are just literally bands that CDs that I've pulled off my CD unit. And a lot of the goth music that I listen to, I don't have in a physical CD form. So I might put in the comments box further bands, you know, that I haven't mentioned in this video. That could be good. And please note, quick disclaimer, not all of these bands are goth bands. They are, a lot of them is music that goths listen to, but I feel that they are all good bands to like as a shoehorn. So if you are interested in other types of music, like I don't know, you're interested in electronica, you're interested in pop, you're interested in metal, which I'm a goth, I listen to all of those kinds of music, but you want to start getting into actual more goth music, then some of these artists could be really good, like bridges. So yeah, in no particular order, the first CD that I have pulled up is The Damned Phantasmagoria. Now this is my favourite Damned album, but The Damned are a great example of one of those really super early goth bands. They started out, and I mean they still were, pure punk really, and part of that goth aesthetic, the way that goths dress, came from their lead singer Dave Vanian, who basically looked like a rock and roll vampire up on stage with a group of punks behind him, and then as it sort of they developed, he started wearing floaty sort of Victorian poet shirts, and he had a long black hair with a white streak in. He's very, very attractive. He still is now, but he definitely was back in the day. And he's actually married to Patricia, I've forgotten her name, but bassist of Sisters of Mercy. So he's kind of goth royalty. But yeah, so The Damned, definitely a band to start with if you want to sound like you know your stuff, and I really like them. Particularly Phantasmagoria, because it has the song Grimly Fiendish, which is a really cool song. But I think my favourite The Damned song, which I don't think was ever released on an album, I think it's like a single release, is their cover of Eloise. It's such a good song. So yeah, The Damned. Another band, which, okay, they're not a goth band, but undeniable the influence they have on the goth scene, and 9 out of 10 goths will probably say, yeah, listen to them. It's The Cure. This is The Cure Greatest Hits, which I actually think is an amazing starting point with The Cure, because then you can listen to their songs. It's got a really nice selection of all their different sort of more classic work. It's not got some of their newer stuff, but you can kind of think, oh, I really like that song, and then look it up and then get that album and things like that. So The Cure, definitely that sort of post-punk. They're surprisingly happy for a goth band, but I think every goth likes them. As another band to start with. One of my other recommendations that is, again, a band that definitely, lots of people say, oh, they're not goths, they just influence goths. But again, they're that sort of like really early punk sort of development of goth. Is Susie and the Banshees. This is the album Juju, which is my favourite Susie album, and songs that I would recommend from it are Spellbound and Halloween. Night Shift as well is amazing. And Susie definitely again is another one that had a really big influence on the aesthetics of goth, especially that trad goth style. She had the big black hair, spiky black hair, and the really graphic eyeliner and eyebrows and stuff. She's amazing, and yeah, that's definitely a band that you need to know about. Another band, which again they're not goth, but come on, they are, which goth hasn't swayed to Lucretia, My Reflection, or This Corrosion on the dance floor. Sisters of Mercy. Again, Floodland. This is my favourite album by Sisters. It has really good songs. Dominion, Mother Russia, Lucretia, My Reflection, This Corrosion, Neverland, etc. I also really like Vision Thing. Is probably my second favourite album by Sisters. They also did, they didn't release many albums. The thing that I would, if you want to start with Sisters of Mercy, I would get Slight Case of Overbombing, which is like a compilation. But yeah, Sisters of Mercy. Andrew Eldritch can deny being goth as much as he likes, but he's had an incredible influence on goth and the goth subculture and goth music. There are so many of the modern goth bands that just sound like Sisters of Mercy. Like, I love Merciful Nuns and Rosetta Stone, which are kind of contemporaries, but they all just sound like Sisters of Mercy, so you can't deny their influence on it. So again, another band that I think you should probably know about. Like I said, please remember this is like not an exhaustive list. This is just CDs that I've grabbed for filming this video to suggest some starting points. I'm not mentioning bands like, I don't know, Alien Sex Fiend, other, you know, just really seminal bands that are important that you should probably know about. So again, I will put a little list in the description box, but I will also link Angela Benedict and It's Black Friday's videos down below, because I still haven't worked out how to do it in like a little card, so I will link their 2 videos down below for more suggestions on bands that you can know about. Okay, controversial musician the first, Marilyn Manson. Okay, he's not goth, but you cannot deny that lots of goths like him. This is Mechanical Animals, which is not the album that I would have suggested, but the 2 albums that I would have suggested are in my car, which is where they permanently are. The 2 albums, I mean, this one is great, and I would also suggest the other 2 parts of this trilogy, which is Antichrist Superstar and Hollywood in the Shallows of the Valley of Death, because you can't deny, especially the trilogy, because those 3 albums are a trilogy, their effect on the goth scene, especially like the 90s goth scene, early 2000s goth scene. I also really like Golden Age of Grotesque. I really like that album as well. So yeah, I am going to mention Marilyn Manson. Hey, give it a go. You might be one of the goths that like it. And so many more goths like Marilyn Manson than they might admit. I'm sorry. There we go. That said, another band that might be a really good like inroad if you like more electronic sort of music, and lots of goths do like electronica, because obviously there's different types of goth, but lots of goths like electronica. Death Stars, really good. They're also kind of a good crossover if you are into metal, because they all used to be in a metal band and then they did like the gothy electro thing. So yeah, this is their second album, Termination Bliss, which is probably my favourite album by them, but I think one of the more recent albums called The Perfect Cult, that's really good. Another controversial opinion time. Again, if you like more electronic music and you want to get into goth things, 9 Inch Nails are never a bad way to go. Again, they're not necessarily goth, but lots of goths like them. This is The Downward Spiral. Yeah, just search for 9 Inch Nails. Another really good inroad into goth, and if you go to a goth night ever, they will definitely play 9 Inch Nails. Like, they will probably play Marilyn Manson as well. They might play a lot of the bands that I'm mentioning. So, another band that aren't necessarily goth but are a good inroad to goth is the 69 Eyes. They're sort of a modern interpretation of the sort of goth rock in the vein of the Sisters of Mercy a little bit. They're Finnish, they're still going, and this is their album Universal Monsters. I do prefer some of the earlier stuff, but yeah, another good band suggestion. Similar vein to the 69 Eyes, this is a very controversial band, but again, they're a modern form of gothic rock, and I'm sorry, you can't argue that. It's him. If you are a metalhead that wants to start getting into goth, definitely give him a go if you haven't already listened to them. This is their album Love Metal, which it was my inroad into him. which is the first album that I get from them, and I've mentioned before, I love him, they're one of my favourite bands. So yeah, if you're a metalhead and you want to start getting into more gothy stuff, him could be a good bridge for you. And last but not least, if you're into like sort of, I'd say more pop, if you're a pop person but you want to start listening to goth music, start with a band called The Birthday Massacre, which are electro pop from Canada, and they just nice. They have that creepy cute aesthetic, so if you're into pastel goth or more the creepy cute vibe, then The Birthday Massacre would be a really good album to start. This is their EP Looking Glass, but to be honest, the two albums I would really recommend, their second album, Violet, and I think it's their third album, Pins and Needles. They're just really good albums, and I really like The Birthday Massacre. So that was my controversial music part. I really hope you liked it. Looking at the time of the video, I'm actually going to stop it there. The next part of the video is going to be a bit about sort of like finding your way in goth, and then literature, because I do think being well read, in my opinion, maybe it's because I'm a bit more of a romantic Victorian-y inclined sort of goth, but I think literature and knowing that aspect of where goth came from, because you've got where it came from music and where it came from literature, and I think you kind of need to know the two. So I will see you in my next video. Thank you very much for watching. Leave a comment down below if you have any suggestions of any bands that I either don't mention in my description box or didn't mention in this video. Where would you suggest a Baby Bat or a Gothling starts off in their musical goth journey? And I'll see you in my next video. Bye!